let's go to the motor structure of the speaker. That is the way that the magnet and or the back plate and the pole piece start the speaker. It starts as just a piece of bar stock iron. So nothing fancy about it. So that goes into a press. Of course, this is a bar. They have to saw it off. And the first step, the press is going to stamp it down into kind of another funky little shape, which is completely useless at that point.
Kind of a mushroom.
Yeah, pretty much. And from there, it's going to go into another press, and there may actually be more steps in between this that we actually just didn't get when we requested them. But it basically has a flat back. That's the start. And if you notice, the pole piece and the back plate, this is one solid piece of material.
Uniplate.
Yes, that's exactly right. This is really important. This is something we pioneered back in 1986 with the original competition woofers, the Comp A series. When you take, say, if I take this material here, and so here's the back plate, and I glue them together, this is what pulls the heat out of the voice coil. This is where it starts. And it goes to the back plate, which is like the radiator. If it can't get the heat from this to this and dissipate it, it's going to burn up. But if you take this and glue that together, the glue is going to be basically a barrier for the heat. It's not going to transmit through the glue. Even if you stamp this together, and even if you bolt it together, it's not going to be as effective as making it out of one continuous piece of material. So here we've got another step in the process. Now we're going to go one step farther. Now it's got a hole in the middle. And since this is a coax, that's going to be where you run the wires and the screws to hold the speaker together, and it does release some of the pressure underneath the dust cap, so it does make them a little bit more efficient, a little bit better low frequency response with low power. From there, we go to the next step here, which we thread the center and we cut the notch in the back. And the notch is for the wire, for the coax, because when you put that label on, it's going to be flat. So another process, and then of course once it all is all done, it's treated so it doesn't rust, because this will rust. This will rust eventually, so they're not marine certified.
Yeah, that is rusting.
Yep, well, see, that one already is. So this material is a plating on there that's going to give it that nice silver look, but it's also going to give it some resistance to the elements. So that would be the center pole piece and back plate, and then you've got to have a top plate. So you basically have to have the gap for the voice coil, and that starts off with a sheet of steel again. Once again, you punch out a disc. So there's the start of the top plate. Then it's got to have a hole in it for the voice coil to fit through. So another process there. And then we're going to stamp it again, and these little bumps here that you see on this top plate, that's where they're going to line up into the basket. And that keeps this centered so this doesn't shift and the whole magnet structure doesn't shift and cause the voice coil to rub on the top plate, because this is the magnetic gap. The voice coil, which actually just grab one here, the voice coil will ride in the center here. And this is a real critical piece of the speaker. That dimension right there, it's called the gap. The larger the gap, the less efficient the speaker is. So it's like your magnets. You think magnets, the closer you get them together, the stronger they are, the farther apart, the weaker they are. So we want this, let's grab a finished one. So we want that gap there to be as tight as possible to really concentrate that magnetic energy. But if it's too tight and there's any shift whatsoever, it can rub. So that's why with the Solo X woofers, this gap is so precisely machined and monitored that it's different between the different impedances of the voice coil. So they're not interchangeable. They will work, but you're not going to get the performance that you're paying for. So that's kind of a cool process. Stamp that, and of course, then it's got to be coated as well. So all this goes together to make the back plate. Of course, then you've got the magnet, and this magnet is a raw material. We talked about magnets in about 2 or 3 shows ago, went through the whole thing, but this is it's just basically what a magnet looks like, and there's different types of magnets. We're going to talk about the next type here in just a second. So.